I didn't find the source for this.
The Global Consciousness Project found that atomic clocks all over the world changed their decay rate during 9/11.
I didn't find the source for this. On 9/11, when the buildings were being attacked, in a number of places around the world, I didn't find the source for this. They claimed it was because the consciousness of the minds of the world were focusing on the event, and that changed the rate of decay of the atomic isotopes in the atomic clocks. No, I believe that the things that were eating the building, they were absorbing vast quantities of relic neutrinos from the environment, such that there was a different flux around the atomic clocks in question, and they changed the decay rate. I didn't find the source for this.
Because of the neutrinos that get pulled in, it affected radioatomic clocks all over the world, and it explains the work between 1988 and 1999 of Xu Wenju's team in China, where cesium-137 and strontium, cesium-137 and rubidium-87 atomic clocks, even in the historical record, showed during three body alignments, which gravitationally flux relic neutrinos, the time changes in those clocks. This is what happened all over the world. They think it's consciousness. The Global Consciousness Project said the time changes in the clocks because everyone was focused on it. No, it's because the actual thing doing the work is sucking the neutrino flux that normally is coming in from everywhere all at the same time towards the Earth based on the local gravitational aspects.
I didn't find the source for this.
Retired Princeton scientist Dr. Roger Nelson believes the emotional focus of millions of people on a single event like 9/11 may form a global consciousness.
Does consciousness interact directly with the physical world?
To answer that question, Dr. Nelson and his colleagues deployed dozens of instruments around the world. Random number generators. Basically, they're electronic coin flippers. Instead of heads or tails, each generates a 1 or a 0 200 times a second. If you flip a coin 100 times, you'd expect a result of about 50-50. 50 heads and 50 tails. But what if every time you flip that coin, it came up heads? Not once, not twice, not 50 times, but 60, 70, or even 80. All of them heads.
We do that every second at each of, now we have about 65 places around the world.
When truly random, the line of data wanders back and forth around 50-50 in a pattern the researchers call a drunkard's walk.
And then on 9/11, it begins not being a drunkard's walk. It goes like this for 2 days.
It may sound bizarre, but Dr. Nelson and his team have been at this for the better part of a decade. The first spike showed up in 1997 with the death of Princess Diana. Other events like the Concorde crash, the Madrid train bombing, and the Pope's funeral all registered on those random number generators. But early on the morning of September 11th, the data went off the charts.
Several hours before the first plane hit. We don't know how to explain that. It could happen by chance, but the chance is like 1 in a million or 1 in some really large number.
How does it work, and what does it all mean? Even the scientists don't know. The implications go beyond science into philosophy and religion. All we know is this: at this very moment, around the globe, the random number generators keep flipping those virtual coins, waiting to record our collective reaction to the next major world event. At Princeton, Brendan Keefe, CBS 2 News.
We use an instrument for these experiments that's called a random event generator, or REG. Lots of people also say random number generator. And it is, and the ones we use are all based on an electronic process. It's literally a quantum level process where an electron will pass through a barrier which it shouldn't do. It's we set a circuit, we design a circuit that has a diode. A diode is normally a switch. It can be open and allow electricity to flow, or it can be closed and not. And we set it up so the current flows from the wrong direction against the barrier. And because of the strange nature of quantum particles, like electrons, some of them aren't stopped by the barrier. They pass right through and become a tiny voltage on the other side. It varies It's very small. It varies up and down, and we take samples from that, and we ask, is it up or is it down? And we call that a 1 or a 0. And that is a truly random, completely unpredictable process. So it constitutes as good a random source as you can get for random numbers.
Now, contrary to popular belief, atomic clocks are not radioactive. They're not hazardous or dangerous. They're pretty much just like any other electronic. For every 100 million years that pass, an atomic clock will only be off by about 1 second. Compare that to the clock in my watch, and it will be off about a second every 2 days. Well, in an atomic clock, we keep that same vibrating piece of quartz, except this time we connect it to a flashlight that shines down a tube. But not just any flashlight. This flashlight produces microwaves at exactly, you guessed it, 9.19263,177 gigahertz. And here's the thing, the flashlight and the piece of quartz are coupled together. So what this means is that when the quartz vibrates a little bit faster, the frequency of the microwaves goes up. And if the quartz vibrates a little bit slower, the frequency of the microwaves goes down. So as the microwave flashlight shines down the tube, an ejector shoots individual atoms of low-energy cesium, or rubidium, down along the tube. Now, if the quartz happens to be vibrating at exactly the correct rate, meaning the temperature and pressure aren't throwing it off, then the quartz is keeping the exact time. And when the quartz is keeping the exact time, the frequency of the microwaves will be tuned to exactly 9.19263,177 gigahertz, which in that case, the electrons in the atoms will gain energy and change to a high energy state. And it just so happens that when the electrons change to a high energy state, it changes the magnetic properties of the atom. So if you have a magnet right here, the path of the streaming atoms will be altered, but low energy state atoms would just go right through. Nothing happens. So right here, there's a detector making sure that this stream of atoms comes through at a steady rate. So to simplify, if everything is in order, then the quartz will be vibrating at the exact correct rate, which means that the microwave frequencies will shine at exactly the correct frequency, which means that those low energy state atoms will jump to high energy state atoms, which means that they will be altered through the path of the magnet and they will hit the detector. This is what happens when everything is in order. But what if everything isn't in order? What if the quartz is vibrating a little too fast or a little too slow? The temperature of the room has affected the quartz's vibration. Well, in that case, then the microwave frequency will be slightly off. The lower energy atoms will be completely disinterested in changing their state, so the magnet will not deflect their path and the atoms will not hit the detector. So what this means is that if the quartz is vibrating at exactly the correct speed, keeping exactly the correct time, atoms will hit the detector. But if the quartz is just a teensy bit too fast or too slow, atoms won't hit the detector. So the detector is the clock's way of knowing if the clock is keeping super accurate time or not. And if atoms aren't hitting the detector, in other words, the clock is just slightly off, then a tiny jolt of electricity has to be sent to the quartz to correct its vibration, which corrects the microwave frequency, which makes the low energy state atoms jump to high energy state, which makes them be altered by the magnet so that they hit the detector and tell the clock, hey, you're keeping the right time. This process of sending a little electrical jolt to the quartz happens constantly. So the atomic clock is constantly self-correcting, making sure it's as accurate as possible. And something fascinating about this is how incredibly sensitive changes to the microwave frequency are. If the microwave frequency so much as changes from this to this, that's enough to cause the atoms not to hit the detector. So a little jolt of electricity will have to be sent to the quartz to correct it. That is such a mind-bogglingly small number. But that's why atomic clocks are so accurate. They're so sensitive. This is how the world keeps time. It's kinda incredible. And at this point, you might be wondering, why do we even need such accurate clocks? Well, in addition to controlling our time standards around the world, atomic clocks are also used for synchronizing phone calls, time-stamping banking transactions, various scientific purposes, validating your credit card, or use in the Global Positioning System, GPS.